everybody, it's Margie Meacham, and welcome back to the Learning to Go podcast. By the way, this is one of the top 10 podcast programs for learning and development professionals around the world. So congratulations on your excellent taste, and thank you very much for putting us in the top 10 with all of your tweets and recommendations and your active indulgence. We really appreciate it. So with me today is Todd Bellin. He is Director of Products and Strategy at Mindspace, and they are doing some really exciting things in learning technologies, including virtual reality and augmented reality. And I'm going to let Chad fill us in a little bit more about that. So welcome, Chad. Tell us a little bit about your company and what you do there.
Thanks, Margie, and thanks for having me today. So at Mindspace, we call ourselves the Creative Learning Agency, and our company has been around for about 15 years, and we started out as a traditional marketing and advertising agency, and over the years had an opportunity to get into not only gamification, but also some of the learning and training and talent development type space, which is a large majority of our focus today. So we have two main functions of our company. The first function is our creative work, where we do everything from content, instructional design, graphics, and things like that, really creating any size learning program or training program you might need using a number of different media, whether even it's print or digital, traditional e-learning, all the way up to augmented and virtual reality, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. And then the second part of our business is our Fathom LMS, which is a SaaS product that allows innovative ways to learn. And so this is the platform that our most famous engagement, Starbucks, is built on and is using. And we're also supporting many of our other customers through that particular platform. So we handle a number of different projects in a number of different industries, everything from retail to food and beverage. We've worked with labor unions. We've worked with educational institutions like Arizona State right here next to us. And so we're just really excited to meet new people and new prospects, learn about what their problems and challenges are, and we work to help solve them in a way that's really appropriate to them.
Okay, thanks, Chad, for that introduction. And I know that the learning professionals listening to our interview today, their ears really peaked up when you talked about augmented and virtual reality, because you can't go to any kind of online or on-site conference these days or pick up a training magazine without reading about it. So it's hugely interesting right now. In my observation, lots of people still don't quite get it. So that's why I invited you on the program today. So let's start right away with a couple of definitions, because I suspect that a lot of folks are confused about the difference between augmented reality and virtual reality. Could you give us a couple definitions and maybe some examples of each?
Sure. So at the very basic level, virtual reality is taking yourself and putting your senses in a completely virtual world. So this would be, as you see Oculus, for example, you put on the goggles, and oftentimes you're in a specific area that has some sensors and things like that track your movements and different things like that. That's really virtual reality. There's a little bit more equipment involved typically, and these worlds are completely digital. There's nothing that's overlaid from the real world or things like that. Augmented reality is typically a little bit lighter weight as far as the technology involved. Sometimes you can just put on a pair of glasses or things like that. Example would be like HoloLens, where you would use your existing surroundings and then things would appear. So if you're in a blank room, maybe things could start coming out of the wall, or there could be a different virtual items placed in that room with you that aren't actually there, but that you could potentially interact with as if they were there. So virtual reality, completely digital. Augmented reality, usually a mix of your actual physical surroundings or physical things and digital things laid on top of that.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And I think it's important also for us to point out that while a lot of folks may have first experienced this as a form of entertainment, they may have seen their kids with it, for example, with Oculus, or they may have heard of somebody playing online games with it or something. The opportunity to use it for both of these technologies for learning is really powerful. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit. Have you seen any research on the effectiveness of virtual reality or augmented reality as opposed to more traditional training methods?
So there's a number of studies out there, and just kind of keeping things high level and in general. What you're seeing with augmented reality and virtual reality is really more experiential learning versus your traditional e-learning, which is more referential. So you'll watch a video, or you'll read some content, or something will be presented to you, and then there's an activity to do, or some questions to answer, or things like that. That's referential learning, and that's how a lot of learning has actually happened over the past many centuries. Somebody tells somebody something, quizzes them on it, and then off we go, and we learn a new skill. What's really special about experiential training is that people, it's sort of a generally known fact that people work better and learn better when they're actually doing stuff. And so a lot of the strategy around using these new technologies is really putting somebody in a situation and seeing how they do with little or no explanation on what they should be doing. So one of the early adopters for this type of technology is obviously the medical industry. Everything from the sort of like the Da Vinci, surgical devices and things like that, everything down to, I was reading an article about nurse training in a particular company that specializes in augmented reality, helping nurses to place IVs more accurately inside of veins, and training on it worked maybe in this vein, but it would have been a little bit better in that vein, or kind of showing where that the vascular system is even before that particular treatment. So those are just the start of what's possible with these types of technology. And it's one thing to say to somebody, hey, you can study the contours of the vein and look for the one that's most obvious, or things like that, or simply sit them in front of somebody's actual arm, and they mimic the placement of the IV, and they're seeing everything in this augmented reality through their glasses. That's going to be a lot more impactful, and it's going to get them the skills that they need way faster.
Yeah, it is an exciting time we live in. And, in a way, these technologies are really wonderfully old school, especially virtual reality, because it's back to learning through hands-on experience as opposed to simulations. So, I've done an awful lot of e-learning design, and we talk about interactivity in e-learning, and it's very important, but it's limited. It's click here, drag this over here, and sometimes it's just not the way the real world happens, while other things are going on around you. So the opportunity for virtual reality is someone can be learning a computer system while people are running in and out of the office, while things are being dropped on your desk. You can look at a piece of paper and then the screen, because that can all be built and experienced just like the real things. One of the things that we will do with this podcast is, together, Chad and I are coming up with a list of references for you guys to pursue and look into this further, because the research is very compelling that people will learn in these immersive experiences much better. They'll remember it better, and they truly get the skill, not just an understanding, but the ability to do it. So the medical industry, like you said, was one of the first to jump on it, but we're going to see it in all parts of business. It's just a matter of getting the technology out there in general use. And I think once people realize just how effective it can be, it's going to really take off. We're really just at the beginning of it. So let's talk about the technology for a minute, Chad. What what do you think is required if I'm I'm a trainer or I'm an instructional designer within a company or my own consulting business, and I don't have a huge budget, but I want to get started. What's kind of the minimum set I'm going to need?
So surprisingly, you need very, very little. Even at the start of the year, a complete setup with a computer and all of the gear that you would need to run a basic virtual reality system would cost about $2,000, let's say. News this week, obviously, is that Oculus just came out with a $200 headset that kind of encapsulates everything within that. So your starting point is coming way down for these technologies, and you can get started for as little as a few $100s. It could be even cheaper if you had a particular application where you could just get a set of plastic goggles and slide a smartphone in and use that as kind of your virtual reality. Obviously that can be $15 or $20 to get started with that. Obviously outside of the actual software, but I think the biggest hurdle in actually getting into some of these programs is just kind of the cloud of uncertainty around the technology. So many people haven't experienced it for themselves, or they've only maybe experienced just a slice of it and haven't really had that full experience. So I would encourage you to call up any local vendor. Certainly if you're in the Phoenix area, you can call up Mindspace and we can hook you up with a demo of this technology. But look up augmented reality in the city that you live in. There's lots of local places where they'll be happy to have you into their office, put you in the goggles, put you in a set, kind of explain to you the technology and give you an experience. And then with that experience, I think you're better equipped to go and think about how would this impact my employees, or how would this impact my customers, and begin to start thinking about what that program might look like and how you'd like to start. I recommend starting with a pilot project. Just scope out a small project with a small group of people, and maybe even do some A/B testing against a group of people who are doing more traditional training, and see what happens. Because I think your measurements obviously will be tailored to your business, but you're going to see some very interesting reactions, I think, from the people who are doing the experiential training, the virtual reality or the augmented reality. They're going to be pumped up and excited about the technology, but I think you'll find that they'll maybe grasp the material either quicker or better than a control group.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And by the way, for those teachers and college professors who are listening, one set of resources that I'm going to post for you, there's a lot of companies, Oculus is one of them, that have some wonderful programs, very, very affordable for teachers. They have a different pricing tier for the education market because they recognize the limitations in your budget, and they want to get these tools into the hands of teachers. I don't know, Chad, if you guys have anything like that, but I do have several links that I want to post in that regard.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And there's many programs, even through community colleges and obviously universities, where these types of things, the equipment is available, or there's specials or reduced prices or things like that. But that's really the first step in really finding out more about these programs, and if it's right for you, is really to experience the technology, and then to kind of start thinking about how best to maximize the use of that within your particular organization.
Okay, so let's say I got my hands on some of the tech, and I'm about to do that pilot program. What are some of the beginner mistakes that you can warn us about so that we don't go out and make them?
So the number one thing I would do is I would definitely work with somebody who has expertise in the technology if I was going to do anything with a pilot program. So that could be a university student. That could be a university professor, or again, a community college professor. It could be a local enthusiast who has some expertise in the technology. But it's helpful to have an expert. Just like you wouldn't do too many things in fixing your own car or working on your car these days. the technology is pretty easy to use and pretty straightforward, but having an expert in your corner is a very, very good idea to start off. And a lot of people, will volunteer. Some people will maybe be an hourly fee, but even those fees might be inexpensive and might amount to a few hundred or maybe even a few $1,000s to get started, depending on your scope. But having that expert there that you can ask questions of and that can help you through some of the implementation will be invaluable to you. And I think the second piece of advice would be to start small. Don't try and solve the entire problem all at once. Just pick maybe one scenario. We have a lot of experience with Starbucks and in coffee and things like that. If we were to roll out this type of a program for them, it would be, let's not focus on making all the drinks. Let's focus on one drink or one set of activities and not, all of the activities, so that we get just that sample size of an idea. Because then from there, from that small sample, you can start thinking about, what the ROI is going to be, or what the benefits are going to be, or some of those other business drivers that you want to drive, and really tailor the program over time to those results, versus kind of going in and trying all those things. Because like anything else, putting something in a box and just trying to accomplish a few things will lead you to be more successful, I think, a little bit quicker.
I think that's great advice, and it really rings true for just about any technology, but especially when you're getting into something that, for most of us, this isn't just a new piece of authoring software. This is a whole different way of thinking about delivering a learning experience. And so, give yourself time, start small, and build the case from there as you build your expertise. I think that's great. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to throw out a little challenge to our listeners, and I just thought of this. If you get inspired from this podcast and you go out and you build something, I'd really love to see it. And we will post the best ones on our site. So everybody get out there, grab your simple, affordable tech and build something. And let me know how it goes, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we'll all learn from it. I'm looking forward to that. And maybe I'll bring Chad back to help me do the judging. You up for that, Chad?
Absolutely. I'd definitely be happy to. And I think, one thing there is, so often, we are embarrassed or ashamed by failure or something that didn't go right. I think one of the tremendous things I've learned since becoming involved in this industry is that so much success comes out of failing. You try something and it doesn't work, and you get all of the insights that you wish you had before the project, but then you're able to build the right thing or go in a different path and be successful. And so I would encourage people, and that's why you start small. You can start small, you can learn all those things and then take it forward. So don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of falling flat on your face. There's usually a lot of really good lessons that come out of that can advise for building the program or doing anything down the road.
Yeah, great advice. And of course, that's how your brain learns. It learns through trial and error, which is where machine learning got the concept. So your brain needs to fail in order to narrow down its choices for the next level of activity, the next experiment it's going to make. So great advice and very sound learning science behind it. So thank you for that. So now I'm going to kind of switch gears on you, Chad. I'd like to know what you're working on right now that's got you most excited.
So we're super excited about a few things that are happening here. We just landed a contract with one of the biggest and most well-known names in technology to help them through some of their training programs. And for us to have this particular company as a client, and go ahead and go to our website and you'll see this particular client is listed on our website. But to be able to continue to do work with this company is an amazing honor for us. and amazing validation for us on the type of work that we do. So we're really excited. This work is going to be laid out for us over the course of the next many months, and so our team is going to be very busy with that. We're also working on the next version of our Fathom LMS, and so version 2 is going to go into beta here at the end of middle to end of Q4, and then we're looking forward to a Q1 release. And this is where you can start to blend the traditional e-learning with augmented reality and virtual reality, and even integrating things like Alexa or Cortana or these different sort of Internet of Things type bots. Fathom has really been redesigned to be a data-first platform, and so we're keeping the data on the back end, and it doesn't matter what kind of learning experience you have, traditional e-learning or any of these new types of things. We're keeping the data set all together, and so you can kind of chart a path and mix all of these different types of learning all in one system. And so we're really excited about that. We're going to be, like I said, moving forward with a release here in the early to mid part of Q1. And we're excited to help people understand how they can utilize this platform in new and innovative ways to meet the needs of their organization.
Wow, it sounds like you've got a lot going on. Congratulations. And
thank you.
It's a good thing to be busy, so that's great.
Indeed it is.
So Chad, how does somebody reach out to you if they'd like to learn more and maybe even explore opportunities to work with your organization?
Yeah, the best way to reach us is to go to our website. It's mindspace.net. We're also very active on LinkedIn, on Twitter. We have a blog on Medium. And if you want to just go ahead and drop us a line, we have a email address. It's sayhello@mindspace.net. So go ahead and send us an email. Tell us about your organization. One of our associates will be in touch with you and start to really understand a bit more about your business. And you might even get a chance to talk to me and as we see how Mindspace and our services and technology might be able to help you through learning challenges.
Well, thank you for that. And it'll also be on our website, folks. So if you're listening via iTunes or in your car or on your phone and you weren't able to capture all that, just go to Learningtogo.info and go under our podcast or search for it, and you'll find the information there. So you have been listening to me, Margie Meacham, the Chief Freedom Officer of Learning to Go, and you have been listening to my guest, Chad Bellin, the Director in Products and Strategy for Mindspace. And we've been having a great time talking about virtual reality and augmented reality. So please tune in next time. You never know what we'll be talking about. Thank you so much for your time today and for all this great information.